It's not too late to give him the Ballon d'Or, you know. I said in my Ferencváros match review a couple of weeks ago that Mikey Moore Ballon d'Or has a pretty good ring to it. And I know Vinicius Jr. wrapped it up with a bow on it with that performance against Borussia Dortmund in the Champions League the other night. But it's not too late to give it to Mikey, all right? Welcome back to the Ben Bowman YouTube channel. I hope you guys are doing well. I'm looking forward to getting into this one. In this video, of course, we're going to break down Spurs' victory over AZ Alkmaar. And there'll probably be about half an hour of Mikey Moore chat. If that's right with you guys, is that right? Is that right? Let me know in the comments. We're not just going to focus on Mikey Moore, although he will be taking up a lot of my thoughts in this video because he was excellent last night. I want to talk about the game as a whole, obviously, in particular that second half. I want to talk about Timo Werner because we have to. I want to talk about how Spurs go about setting up on that left-hand side on Sunday with no Son Heung-Min. Does Mikey Moore come in and start his first Premier League game? There will also be a Crystal Palace preview on the channel tomorrow. So we'll talk about that in a little bit more depth in that video. I want to talk about Bergvall, and I want to talk about James Maddison as well, because I thought he was absolutely excellent last night. And of course, we'll touch on the penalty incident, and we'll talk about a few other bits as well. And I want to talk about Radu Dragusin, because I think his performance last night taught us a little bit about what his strengths and weaknesses are as a defender. But there is only one place to start. Mikey Moore. Actually, let's of course have a look at how we set up pretty close to the predicted 11. I'd say that we did on stream a couple of days ago. Obviously, Timo started on the left-hand side. I did predict James Maddison would start in this game. I think it was good for him. And I do think he probably will still start on Sunday, to be honest. I don't think Pat Matasar being on the bench and Maddison starting necessarily has a reflection on how Ange is going to go, but obviously we'll see. Dragusin and Davis. Forster came in goal. Which I don't think we necessarily expected, but fair play to him, and we'll talk about Fraser Forster a little bit later. Obviously, Mikey Moore started on the right. Troy Parrott started for AZ Alkmaar. Didn't really have too much impact on the game, but one player that did, and we have to touch on, is Poku. Obviously, Van Bommel went off injured. Poku moved over to that left-hand side and did cause us problems. These were the average positions from last night. Obviously, Mikey Moore, you can see there because he was on the right and the left. He is in the middle, but you can see from his heat map where he was on that left-hand side, his desire to drive in and be much more effective on the left than he was on the right. And look, we'll start with Mikey Moore. We have to start with him because I think last night was a night where the whole footballing world sort of woke up to him. Obviously, Spurs fans, I've been banging the drum about this kid for as long as I've been making content, so about a year now, honestly. I told you to invest your stocks at the start, and those stocks are booming right now. He just grabbed that game in the second half yesterday. Had minimal involvement on that right-hand side. Wasn't quite as effective. Obviously started on the right against Ferencváros, and I thought he linked up with Pedro Porro really well in that game. Again, when he moved over to the left in the second half of that one, I thought he looked better, and I think he looks more comfortable there. Maddison said after the game, between that 45th and 65th minute, it was like watching Neymar. And he's not wrong, is he? Such a powerful dribbler who drives into the box. I just think those angles maybe on the right-hand side don't suit him so much for the way that he wants to play. His game isn't so much about standing fullbacks up, going round them and hanging the ball up. He wants to come inside, combine and create, and I think that suits him much better on the left. And this was his first action of that second half. We'll just take it back a couple of frames here. He's got the strength. Do you know who he really reminded me of last night? And it's not just because of the low socks, all right? Jack Grealish, for that real lower body strength, for someone that's quite small. And his ability to get away from players and dribbling in tight areas as well. He was just amazing. But first action in the second half, lures the defender in, gets away from him. Again, that low centre of gravity, that kind of Hazard-esque dribbling ability as well that I've compared him to in the past. Another man comes onto him, gets away from him. But this bit, I said about this in the Ferencváros game as well, his willingness to drive in between two players, which will either lead to him winning a lot of free kicks or will lead to him just taking two players out of the game and really opening the pitch up, which is exactly what happens here. That little touch, disguise, and he's away. Holds him off, and you can see Brennan Johnson on his bike in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen. And here, the perfect weight on the pass takes three defenders out of the game. Obviously, Brennan Johnson's shot is blocked. But that was in the first minute of the second half. And like James Maddison said, between the 45th and 65th minute, it was like watching Neymar. But in those 20 minutes, he completely changed the game. I also want to talk about Spurs' off-the-ball intensity in that second half increasing as well, which we'll come on to a little bit in a little while. Because I just think everything just upped. Everything just upped in the second half. And I think Mikey Moore was the catalyst for that. Again, this is just after. Dragusin plays that ball into feet from Richarlison. Obviously, we'll talk about Richarlison a little bit later. But this is good link-up play. Pops it off to Maddison. And I think Maddison and Moore were really combining well down that left-hand side, which does potentially bode well for Sunday. If Mikey Moore is chucked in. Ange Postecoglou has spoken about the fact that he's ready to start a Premier League game. So are we going to see that? And I also thought he combined really well with Destiny Udogie as well. Picks the ball up on the left-hand side here. Again, faces him up. And this is just such an excellent ball in, which causes chaos for the AZ Alkmaar defence. Let me just hide myself here. brilliant weight of pass, and you can see if I just move this frame across slightly, you can see the bodies that Mikey Moore has got to aim for in the box there. It's such a dangerous ball in, especially when you've got three players in Richarlison, Bergvall and Johnson willing to attack it. Richarlison gets across the first man. It's one of those really dangerous ones that just bounces in front of the goalkeeper and they end up getting a free kick. But it's just such a teasing ball. And again here, his willingness to just drive at players. I'll hide myself again here because he's going to be coming a lot down this left-hand side. Again, gets away from his man. Again, happy to kind of go between two players. The little shimmy, the little shoulder drop, and he's away. And here, I know he doesn't actually end up getting on the end of this touch, but the confidence that he had and the swagger that he was playing with to just knock it round him, and the centre-back here comes across and makes the tackle. But this is just majestic dribbling. Again, away. That ability to weave in and out. He's a special talent. Again, out on the left-hand side here. It was almost like there was a point in that 20 minutes, in the second half that I've just spoken about, that everybody just realised if you just give the ball to him, he'll make something happen. And how many times have we seen that with Spurs players in the past where, you think of Gareth Bale in the San Siro, even, not a Spurs example necessarily, but, everybody will talk about the moment that they realised Wayne Rooney was ready and he was physically ready. And he had that game where everybody just woke up to him. And look, this is AZ Alkmaar in the Europa League. But I think everybody, like when I got back from the game last night, I was scrolling through Twitter, rival fans, neutral fans were just awash with praise for this kid. Because Spurs fans have kind of been banging on about him for the last, year or so, ever since he kind of really started to pull up trees in the under-18s and then got basically just fast-tracked to the first team in the second half of the season. And hasn't really looked back. We've been banging on about him, but I think everybody really saw. There was a compilation doing the rounds last night, and I watched the full game back when I got in, and watching him in full flow again, being there live was one thing, because one of the beautiful things about football is that was an amazing moment for him last night, but to be able to experience that in the ground with him as well was special. And it was like I don't want to go too big, but it was kind of like I was there. I will tell people about. I was at that game where it really felt like he exploded, and we've seen really encouraging moments from him so far in a Spurs shirt, but in terms of an overall performance, that was it. There's your star, man. There's your star boy. Again, out on the left-hand side here, willingness to drive in. This was one of my... this was actually... I think it ends up going out for a corner here, but again, you see the confidence to stand his man up and dribble at him. You're not going to get that on the right-hand side. Like I said, I think the angles for him aren't necessarily did the same and aren't necessarily there. This here in the 58th minute, the chance where he drives into the box and puts that brilliant ball across. Look at the first touch he takes. It just that touch is just filth. Absolutely filth. He's got such a brilliant disguise where he lures players in and is just able to then just get away from him. And then this ball control as well, and it's just honestly, how I said I think I said it in my match review on Saturday. Or after the West Ham game, and I definitely said it on Daring and Doing about Dejan Kulusevski, how I'm running out of words. I've already run out of words for Mikey Moore. But this touch just propels him forward into a position where he can just drive. And again, the close control, got two players around him there and fizzes a ball across the box, which unfortunately nobody can get on the end of. This was his last action of that second half before he got taken off. I think it was taken off in the 86th minute for Wilson Odobert. This was in the 77th minute. It's kind of final meaningful action in the game. Everybody was desperate for him to get on the score sheet. Cuts inside, has a shot, which is saved by the goalkeeper. But we know he's got the quality, like we saw at Old Trafford, to go really close from those kind of positions. What a performance in that second half it was from him. Definitely was the catalyst for Spurs going on to win that game. And credit to Ange for moving him over, because in the first half, like I said, minimal impact from that right-hand side, wasn't poor in the game. And again, this is where you have to remember that it's a 17-year-old kid, but the second half is where you have to remember that if you're good enough, you're old enough. And he was just absolutely electric in that second half. Honestly, like I said, kind of running out of words for him, really. But yeah, after this, obviously Wilson Odobert came on for him, and I'm gonna go backwards in this game and talk about the first half in a little while, because obviously the second half I think is where we can definitely take the most encouragement. This was lovely football, and obviously Wilson Odobert coming back from injury as well. Mikey Moore and Odobert are the two players that you'd arguably start on, or would be competing for that start on that left hand side on Sunday if Sonny isn't available, which it sounds like he's not. But you could potentially play Richarlison there. But again, that's something that we're going to cover in the match preview, which I'll be recording today, but putting out tomorrow as well. So feel free to get your thoughts in the comments about the Palace game now. But please do let me know in the comments your thoughts on Mikey Moore's performance last night. And make sure to subscribe as well. That'd be massively appreciated. Again, Spurs working the ball from right to left like we do really well in this side. Sarr, who I thought made a really good impact when he came on, just that running power again. Breaking things up when the game got away from us a little bit in that second half at times. Working out to Odebear. This would have been a brilliant goal. I was thinking about making a TikTok video about what our best goal of the Ange Postecoglou era has been so far, because there was a tweet that was going around the other day about the goal that we scored at Crystal Palace away last season, obviously a fixture at the weekend, of the really well-worked goal in the second half. This would have been right up there if this goes in. Let me just hide myself. Wilson on the left-hand side. Again, lovely touch into Destiny Udogie. You can see them having a nice little relationship down that side. But again, the movement, he carries it on. Udogie, such composure in those positions. Watch Odebear's run here. Kulusevski, who obviously comes on. He carries on going, Odebear. Lovely little first touch into Kulusevski. Takes it away from the centre-back as well there with a lovely touch, Odebear. And unfortunately, couldn't get the finish. They did do a VAR check for the penalty. I haven't actually seen I didn't really watch the replay of the incident to see whether it was a foul or not, because it was pretty redundant. And obviously, you can't put it in. But if that went in, my God, that would have been some goal. Overall second half thoughts, I'd say, in terms of the game as a whole, I thought it was a fairly disjointed performance at times that maybe lacked a bit of fluency that we have been seeing. But what do you expect when you make 9 changes? And like we've touched on with Mikey Moore and that example there, and James Maddison as well, who I thought ran that game, to be honest. I thought he was arguably our best player in that one. There were some real moments of quality, and the intensity up massively in the second half. We won that game in the 45th to 65th minute. Mikey Moore moving over to the left-hand side was that spark. And I want to talk about our off-the-ball intensity, because I think that was something that really helped us overwhelm Alkmaar in that second half, kind of forcing them into errors. And again, like I said, with Mikey Moore, you had a real direct threat actually running at them constantly for the 20 minutes in Mikey Moore, and that's something that we didn't really have with Timo Werner in that first half, which we'll come on to. But again, I want to talk about Tottenham's pressing, which is something I think is massively improved this season. You can see here, 59th minute, when we've got them, we've gone 1-0 up. Here, just the pressing here, forcing them back. Richarlison, Moore makes the run. Again, you kind of causing real problems here, forcing them into errors. Back pass there goes to Richarlison. He gets the shot blocked. But then pretty much straight after this, James Maddison, who I want to talk about as well, get in there and winning the ball back. His off-the-ball ability and his pressing and his ability to win the ball back has improved so much this season. And then it just sets us forward again. There were sloppy moments in the game, as I touched on before. Again, what do you expect when you kind of make 9 changes? I think Bentancur had a lot of nice touches and knit things together in that midfield, but he had some sloppy moments. But I thought for the most part he played well. And Radu Dragusin, I think, encapsulated that quite well as well, who's someone that I want to talk about now. I kind of want to talk about the good and the bad of Radu Dragusin last night. Because like I said earlier in the video, I think we kind of learned a lot about what we're going to see from him in a Tottenham shirt. Some good, some bad. And I think we'll start with the bad here. Such a big part of the centre-back's role in this Tottenham team is that ability to be comfortable and press-proof on the ball, under pressure and calm in those moments. And that's where I worry about him. If Romero was to get injured and Dragusin was to have to come in for a long period. And look, there's obviously been chat about how much chances or how many chances Radu Dragusin deserves. Does he deserve a chance to go in? Obviously, people were questioning Christian Romero, myself included, after that Brighton game. This is what I worry about. Bentancur, back to him here. Under very little pressure, he makes a difficult situation for himself. And Poku, who was on fire all night, presses him. Radu Dragusin gets uncomfortable, loses the ball, and they're in. And Bentancur thankfully gets back and makes a really good recovery. But again, there was positives as well, because I talked about that off-the-ball intensity. If I just make this a little bit bigger for you guys here. That off-the-ball intensity improved. And Dragusin, again, his reading of the game, again, getting into a situation where our pressing is causing them problems. Richarlison harrying, forcing them back here, forcing them to go long. But Radu Dragusin is there, out, and intercepts it really well. Reads the game. His reading of the game as a box defender and as a defender in these kind of zones as well is really good. Is really good, Radu Dragusin. And that is something that really encourages me. But the lack of composure on the ball in certain moments. But this is a good pass into Johnson, which sets us away. Obviously, Richie is offside from this example. But the keeper comes out and smothers it anyway. But that reading of the game, that ability to step high up the pitch, is something that's really, really encouraging for him. Like I said, I think he's a very good box defender. but and that's something we'll come on and talk about in this example here coming up as well. Again, Bentancur loses the ball here, tries that kind of blind pass, gets intercepted. They're on the break, and again, it's that man Poku, who's running at Archie Gray, who struggled a bit against him last night, but again, this guy is a real talent. I think he did quite a good job of putting himself in the shot window, potentially for Spurs, maybe for some other Premier League teams. Runs at him, overload gets created, but again, Radu Dragusin there gets across and makes that interception and puts it behind for a corner. So I think last night we learned more about what the strengths and weaknesses of Radu Dragusin are. And look, he's going to get a lot of opportunities, obviously, in this side, in the Europa League. That ability to kind of rest and rotate that Spurs have got now with the options in the squad. He's going to play in these games. And I do worry about him on the ball, but again, his box defending and his just general defending is pretty good. But again, we know how important our centre-backs are in build-up and all those kind of things. Romero, top of those kind of progressive passing charts, has made more forward passes than any other player, I think, in the Premier League so far this season. Obviously, Spurs haven't taken a long goal kick yet this season in the Premier League either. We want to play out from the back at every single opportunity. So his lack of composure on the ball worries me in certain moments, Radu Dragusin. But fair play to him. I think we saw a lot of good defensive actions from him last night as well. Let's talk about, speaking of defensive actions, let's talk about Fraser Forster, because I was a little bit worried, to be honest, when I saw him in goal. And again, Ben Davies here, like Mickey van der Ven probably doesn't make this mistake, gets caught on the ball. And again, this is our second choice centre-back pair, and I can kind of deal with them making mistakes, but it causes a problem for us. And actually, Radu Dragusin does well as well here to kind of force the AZ Alkmaar forward into a shot from outside the box. But Forster coming up clutch. I was worried about him playing, but fair play to him. He stood up, made a few. It was a really good save in the first half from the corner as well. But I wanted to highlight this one because, again, 1-0. This was kind of where the game was maybe getting away from us a little bit in that second half. So big save from him. But again, good defending from Dragusin to get across early and force that shot from outside the box rather than letting him go in. Let's talk about James Maddison. Actually, let's start by talking about the penalty, because I think that leads on quite nicely to what I want to talk about with James Maddison. Here we go. Because I thought James Maddison's off-the-ball movement in particular was excellent last night. I talked about his off-the-ball work in terms of his pressing ability, but one feature of his game, playing that little bit deeper, not as that sole number 10, has been his off-the-ball runs. We saw this in the Everton game, and I think there have been other Premier League games in which we've seen it as well. And we saw it in the first half, and I've got an example to show a little bit later, of that almost Alderweireld-esque ping from the centre-back or Bentancur in this example, and that Dele-esque run from Maddison in behind. And if I just hide my big ugly mug here, this is where the penalty comes from. And you can see Maddison on the shoulder of the right-back here. Bentancur is looking. He's gone. Maddison, again, brings it down really well, and it just kind of causes that panic in the box. Bergvall ends up winning the penalty, but it is stemmed from Maddison's run in behind them. And obviously we have this moment with the penalty as well. Richie obviously takes it and scores. But we had a little bit of an altercation come to this point. Obviously in the ground last night, nervous about these kind of situations. I don't like it when players argue over penalties. James Maddison, I've actually got a quote from him here, where he said, initially we both wanted to take it. I'm a senior player and the captain today. I was going to take the penalty, and then when I was stood there, I had a little conversation with myself, and I thought Richie's just come back from an injury. It can be difficult for a striker, so a split-second decision to let him take it, and that'll do him the world of good. He's right in both of the kind of things that he's saying here, in terms of it was right for him as the senior player and the captain to want to step up and take the penalty, but it was also right for him to do that and give the penalty to Richie. So fair play to James Maddison, because I thought he was arguably our best player last night, and the kind of leadership that he showed in that example, but also just grabbing the game and really controlling it and kind of playing it at his pace. And obviously Richie, big moment for him. But let's talk about James Maddison's game as a whole, because there was a lot of stuff that I really liked from him here. This example here in the 62nd minute, this kind of driving run into the box has kind of become a little bit of a feature of his game, or not even just necessarily exclusive to Spurs, but obviously at Leicester as well. The disguise here, the link up with Mikey Moore just before this as well, his confidence and his ability to commit multiple players when he's playing in his best flow state is like such a great part of his game. Again here, the little disguise, commits two players, gets around them, and then forces the corner. In these kind of examples, you easily win a penalty, easily get a pass into the box. Here, again, this was the example I wanted to touch on in the first 5 minutes. Like I said, we're kind of circling back a little bit in this game, because I'm pretty sure you guys know where I want to end the video. I didn't want to talk about Timo Werner at the start because I didn't want to start on a negative front, but we will talk about him. But again, Radu Dragusin here, great ball. Maddison again on his bike, that running behind, couldn't quite get there that time. But again, that's been a real feature of his game, I think, so far this season. Definitely something definitely new that sort of popped into Spurs' build-up. And then in the 11th minute, this shot from outside the box all started by a really intelligent bit of movement from him into that space before the pass from Bentancur. You can see here Bentancur on it. Maddison makes that little movement in between Jordi Classy here into this space just in front of Richie. In the future, guys, by the way, something I really want to level up in terms of the content, and you guys will probably feel this as well, is that when I'm talking, I want to be able to illustrate and I want to be able to draw where Maddison is running rather than just me telling you. But you're going to see, obviously he makes that movement here in behind Jordi Classy, the captain, tries to slip in Richie here with a nice little disguise pass. It comes back to him. One thing, and look, this isn't an easy chance, but I don't want to be negative about James Maddison because, like I said, I think he's been great this season for Spurs. One thing I do think has regressed a little bit in his game is his ball striking at Spurs. Maybe I'm being a little bit harsh here, but the shot here just ends up kind of going back into the safe kind of palms or the clutches of the goalkeeper. I want to see more goals from outside the box from James Maddison, I think is what I'm saying. And I think a lot of his efforts have been a little bit powder puff. But I think that's maybe me being a little bit harsh. Maybe it's an injury thing in the past. Obviously at Spurs, he's had his injury problems. But this is the final thing I want to say about James Maddison. This is what he does best for me. 16th minute here. Davis into him. He rides the challenge. He sucks this midfielder in, tight to him, and he can roll him and gets away. So good at that, James Maddison. And then, again, this is what he's best at as well, playing that ball in the channel to Werner, who's able to get a cross in, and Spurs behind for a corner. But, yeah, we've got to talk about Timo Werner. We have to talk about Timo Werner, because I just think that after last night, he did some good things, but with Mikey Moore performing at the level he did last night, Wilson Odobert back now as well, this has to be it now. Like, this has to be it. I understand why Ange wants to play him, and I understand why Ange is, has put him in the team because he works for the system and he does some good things. But the level of confidence right now, it's just, this is a player totally devoid of confidence. Great move this from Spurs in the 4th minute of the game, which actually, this is where Werner starts the game well, in my opinion. And I think it's one of those ones where, interestingly, like, if he wasn't showing the lack of conviction in front of goal, if he didn't have the chance that we all know that I'm going to talk about shortly, we'd probably say that he actually did all right in that first half. And yeah, this is a good cross from him that ends up coming from this move. Maddison, lovely little one-touch football into Bentancur. He's able to drive with it. Good ball out to Timo Werner. Initial touch is a little bit shaky, but again, he creates the angle for the cross. And let's be honest, Mikey Moore should probably score this. It's a great ball in from Werner, and Mikey Moore gets on the end of it. But yeah, 26th minute, that 1v1 chance. I want to talk about Lucas Bergvall briefly here as well, because I thought he had a really good game last night. And his kind of ability to sort of float all across this midfield and pick up the ball is really beautiful. Like Ferencváros, I thought he struggled a little bit in that game, but last night I think we really saw him back to the levels that we kind of saw in pre-season. If you look here, his heat map, or if I scroll down, actually, I don't think you guys can see that. Let's look at his average position. Sorry. His average position, again here, kind of floating all across the midfield. I've got some stats as well. 5 recoveries, 5 duels won, 32 out of 35 successful passes. Made the most tackles out of any Spurs player with 3, and he played 72 minutes and just went off with a little bit of cramp. And this quality of this ball, I was about to say his name then. A lot of what Lucas Bergvall does very much reminds me of Frenkie de Jong. I think we saw that. It's not just in the looks as well. He's kind of got, that the kind of the baby face and the pretty boy look, but he's kind of, a very elegant footballer, and this is what we saw last night from him. Again, head up straight away when he receives the ball on the halfway line. Trivela pass outside of his foot. And if we go to another angle, we all know what happens here. Lovely ball from Bergvall. Timo Werner through 1-on-1, and just a real lack of conviction here. Like I said, a player like totally devoid of confidence. He does everything right, but the finish, it's just so him. Great timing of the run, powder puff finish. Honestly, my stepdad text in our group chat during the game last night. He said, "I've seen harder back passes," and I couldn't agree with that more. So if you're watching, that's for you. And if you kind of just look at his body language after the finish as well, like, I feel for him. I do feel for him. And again, like, you look at the angle here, just as Bergvall is about to release it, he does everything right. Like, the timing of the run, that anticipation is great. But this can't this can't carry on, can it? But yeah, Mikey Moore for Ballon d'Or. Excellent performance last night. Job done for Spurs. And look, we are favourites in this competition, and I think we're kind of showing that. Really, we're beating the teams that we should beat. We haven't had that tougher task so far. The tougher tests to come: Roma, Galatasaray away, Rangers away, of course, as well, which will be a feisty atmosphere, especially with the Postecoglou connection to Celtic. But look, 3 wins out of 3, 2 clean sheets out of 3 as well. Minutes for our youngsters. What more could you want? Make sure to subscribe to the channel. Like I said, guys, there will be a video on my channel coming tomorrow previewing the Palace game, and there will be more Mikey Moore chat in there about whether he should start the game. So make sure to subscribe for that one. Please like the video for me if you enjoyed it, and up the Spurs. Nice one.